What up? What up? Welcome back to the Bad Podcast. Brad and Dawain in the building. My brother Brad. We're gonna call this part 2, baby. Bradley.
Yes.
Let's talk about part 2, man.
Part 2, I got a quote from William James. The community stagnates without the impulse of the individual. The impulse dies away without the sympathy of the community.
All right, let's get it.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
What it look like, what it be like, what it do back in here. Another episode of the Bad Podcast, Brad and Dawain. Super excited to be coming to you again with another episode on this Monday morning, or whenever you're listening to this. Like Brad say, wherever you are in the beautiful world.
That's right.
Whatever time it is, whenever you listen, we're super excited to have you. Man, shout out to my YouTube crew, man. There's a YouTube faithful crew that comment every week that I love to read, and I try to like when I can. Please keep those comments coming. We appreciate it so much. We hitting the part 2 on this one. Brad, before we jump in, I'll let you say your spiel, but I really like that we're hitting a part 2 on this one because it felt like we ran out of time. Like we wanted to keep going, and we both got things going on and we couldn't. So it's good to come back to this. And maybe, y'all, no promises. Maybe we'll stay on topic this time.
No promises. I'll preface with that.
What you got? What's going on in your world, man, before we get going?
Yeah, man. Just thankful to be on another podcast. When we started this journey 149 weeks ago, which is just mind blowing sometimes. We're rolling up on 3 years, right? I mean, 159 would be 3 years.
Math is not my jam.
156 would be 3 years. So in 7 weeks, we'll be rolling up on 3 years, which is just mind-blowing. So grateful to be on the pod again with you, D. And we are having a part 2 to what we were talking about last week. And last week we were talking about community and men in specific, but women as well. Community is so impactful and in such an imperative role in a lot of our lives for a handful of reasons. And we're going to touch on a couple of those reasons today. One, just having a belonging and an identity. For many years, people were very, very proud to wear the shirt that you are wearing the shirt that I am wearing that says E2M. And there's a lot of thousands of people that are still extremely proud to wear that shirt. Why? Because it gave people a sense of belonging. It gave them an identity. We even call ourselves, hey, are you an E2Mer, right? And you hear that from time to time out in society. But it gives you a sense of belonging. And, when you have a sense of belonging, it is so great for your mental health. And that's one of the things that society sees shifting gears with today. Like mental health is declining, yet it's getting a whole lot more focus. And the reason that it's getting a lot more focus is because of 2020, because we went into a pandemic and we went into a shutdown, and people, it was a heightened sense of awareness with mental health. So when you're not surrounded by folks, like-minded folks, you're not surrounded by an emotional support group, you start to see that emotional and mental decline. I mentioned it last week. Somebody's giving me a call. I mentioned it last week. I've seen that decline emotionally and mentally with myself in my own personal journey, because I do work remote. I had the prime opportunity to work with 2 colleges. So if you're listening to this on Monday, yesterday I worked with Fredonia State College, the ladies basketball team. Last week worked with the JCC college hockey team. And when I have a sense of belonging and identity, I have a role, right, and an impactful role with those teams. It boosts my mental morale. So get around folks, and that's sort of what we're going to talk about today. Is just surrounding yourself with like-minded people, driven people. Like we've mentioned it before. If you want to be a millionaire, surround yourself with 4 millionaires. You want to be a bum, surround yourself with 4 bums. You'll be the 5th. So that's what we're going to talk about today: community. Collaboration, learning, the skills that you get, the information and the resources.
No, that's good, man. Thinking about that, I always used to make the joke growing up that I didn't have friends. And the reason why I said that is because I have cousins about 10 or 12 around my age. And that was my circle. That was my community. And so because of that, those guys, I don't call them friends, that's family.
Mm-hmm.
But it was still my community, and I didn't know how, I mean, I knew how important they were to me, but I always kind of felt like I was different when people like, I need to be around people. I was like, no, I got my cousins. I'm good. I
Mm-hmm.
don't have friends. But I said all that to say that mindset of having them makes my isolation time different.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was working remote before it was cool. I always tell people I was
Mm.
working remote in 2019
Oh wow.
before the pandemic. I remember mornings, watching my wife and kids, back out of the driveway and it's cold and I got my robe on and my
Oh,
I,
wow.
yeah, man. I felt bad for him, man. I made sure the car was warm for him, made sure they had breakfast. But I was working remote then. And so during that time, but like I said before, everybody had to do it because I think it's more of a culture shock. And I'm going somewhere. That's why I want to bring that up. But during that time, like I didn't feel isolated, even going into the pandemic, because in my mind, like I always had my cousins, like, whether it was a phone call or a hangout or whatever. My wife, on the other hand, is the office social butterfly. She
Mm.
is the whose birthday is it? Let's go to lunch, blah blah blah. But pandemic happened, and she actually, adopted or became super anxious, like
Mhm.
anxiety set in, because she was missing that piece. That I mean, I was here, but I could, I can't do it so much.
Sure.
And she was missing that, and on top, Brad, we moved to a different city during the time. So
Mm.
not only, you home with the kids and your husband, but then also you isolated from the friends that you knew. You don't know nobody here,
Mhm.
So uh I saw firsthand how when we joined E2M and gained that virtual community, how that in itself just kind of changed the trajectory
Mhm.
of her life and mine as well,
Mhm.
because that became mine as well,
Sure.
and it guided me to where I am now. But just seeing those two different dynamics, two different personalities, how they deal with that, because we're speaking to thousands of folks, man, and
Mhm.
everybody, some people need that social. Some people
Mhm.
cool with it,
Sure.
like
Yeah.
I'm cool with it, but
Mhm.
it's just one of those things.
Well, I'm glad that you brought up the isolation piece because I was just reading. I told the folks last week that I've been, kind of diving in and researching a lot of this information. And one of the projects that I was just reading recently, a couple of days ago, was loneliness and isolation is actually compared to smoking 15 cigarettes a day in in terms of a health impact. Like you talk about higher rates of depression and anxiety and all these things. 15 cigarettes a
Wait a
day.
minute, man.
Yeah,
Everything
long-term
can't be
health.
the equivalent of cigarettes. You remember that documentary that tried to say eggs was like smoking cigarette? Come on now. Come on.
I don't know if I saw that.
Yeah, they was like, it was trying to prove that eggs was bad, and it was like
Oh,
eating eggs is like smoking a cigarette. I was like, ain't no way.
they
But
debunked
anyway,
that
my
sucker.
bad.
No, no. Yeah, I mean, the comparison is around 15, like a dozen cigarettes a day. Being in complete isolation and having that loneliness feeling,
Mm,
and that's why you're seeing this higher rate of depression nowadays. Is because a lot of people aren't going into the office anymore, and
mhm,
it's really affecting our mental health. And what happens with that mental health too is it spills over into our families. It spills over into our workplace. It spills over into so many different areas of our lives, and and then even furthermore, it impacts our friends, right? If I'm in isolation, and then I start to experience these mental health issues, then I'm not reaching out. I'm not being proactive to reach out with my friends. I'm not being proactive to hang out with my buddies. Why? Because now I'm experiencing something personal. And when I start to experience that thing, that personal feeling, I go in deeper and deeper and deeper into that isolation, and then I almost want the isolation. I almost want to be lonely, so I can deal with that myself. And then I'm not, like I said, I'm not reaching out to that friend, and I start to lose that connection with a buddy or a family member, or whatever it is. And that's where that 15 cigarettes comes into play. You
mm.
are so deep into isolation, you don't even know that it's impacting your health until that one day that you have the aha moment, like, holy cow, I'm not feeling very well mentally or physically or emotionally. Well, this is why I am regressing on the daily and pulling myself back and further away from these communities that were once so supportive and encouraging and motivating. You see it with E2M, like people that disconnect from E2M, they regress at a rapid pace. Why? Because they don't have that same sense of support. They don't have that same sense of accountability. But when you're like dialed in and like all in on that community, you have a sense of pride. You have a sense of, I belong here. And people lift you up. And that's how you stay healthy. That's how you stay away from those mental health issues.
Wow. Man, that's deep, brother.
I got
That's
a
deep.
little deep on it.
Yeah, man. I mean, poor guy in solitary confinement, man. He's just dumping cigarettes in his system.
Okay. So listen, that's exactly what the study was about.
Uh-huh.
Is prisons and how effective in a negative manner that being in solitude is, and a lot of prisons are actually getting away from that because
Yeah.
it's negatively impacting prisons.
Yeah, I've heard that. For me, long as the cell is big enough, I'm cool. Like I'm claustrophobic, so if
Yeah.
it's small now, we got issues. But
Mhm.
if it's big enough, B, I'm
Mhm.
good, man. I got so many albums in my head. I got so many, you know what I mean? I'll be in there singing and just and I don't know, man. It's just that's just the way I am.
Mhm.
And I'm not an only child, but my sister is years younger than me. She's like 7, 8 years younger than me. So I was the
Mm.
only child for a long time. So I figured out how to, entertain myself. But
Sure.
yeah, you know, Lord knows I don't want to go to prison ever.
Mm.
But you know, I think it'll be safer in there
Mhm.
than amongst the others, though. But
Yeah.
no, look, that's a squirrel. Let's get off of it.
Yeah, yeah. And like I said, that was the research that I've been recently diving in on, and these are credible resources too. And I don't have my
Yeah,
information.
so your sources. Come
I
on,
know. I'm
sister.
not even citing my sources right now. And someone's like, let me look into that. Look into it, guys. And I think that's the important takeaway from
Sure.
this podcast today is, know your facts.
Mhm.
Look into this stuff. If you're experiencing some sort of mental fatigue or mental illness or something along those lines, or if you're feeling yourself pulling back and isolating yourself intentionally, like putting yourself away from family and away from friends, what happens is your emotional needs start to grow in a different way. Like I used to be able to talk to my buddies about certain things. I used to be able to talk to my dad about certain things, and once I pull back, those emotional restraints I start to, or those emotional pulls I start to put on other people, like my wife or my kids, and then you start to see a negative impact there. So what I'm trying to say is don't isolate yourself. Don't take
Okay.
yourself and put that in solitude, man. Surround yourself with like-minded people. It will pay off. Promise.
All right. So that right. I was hoping we had a solution, like not just doom and gloom. But
Mm,
I actually let's talk more practical. Be like, what are ways to do that? Because say, hey, don't put yourself in isolation.
mhm,
There I know. For my wife, she was able to connect with a local church,
mhm,
community group.
mhm,
We had the E2M. And we even have the premium has a community as well. If you ain't E2M premium, there's a
mhm,
community there as
mhm,
well. What are some ways, man, to kind of get yourself out of that funk that you
mhm.
think of?
I think you have to start small sometimes. Like for guys like you and me, like I'll call up my buddies tomorrow and be like, "Hey guys, let's go out for a drink or let's go out and hang out." That's no problem for me. But some people are so deep into a corner that they just need a coffee date with a family member, or a coffee date with a friend. And it doesn't have to start with a community. A community, in really by definition, a community doesn't have to be hundreds of people or thousands of people. It can be one
Right.
or two people. Like that could be your community. And I
Mhm.
think you have to start there. Start small, right? Reach out to somebody that's incredibly close to you. Whether that might even be your husband or wife. That might
Mhm.
be your best friend or an aunt and uncle, like you were saying, your cousin, somebody that's close to you, and just say, "Hey, can we go grab a cup of coffee?" Why? Just want to chop it up. I just want to talk. I want to see other people. I want to pull myself out of isolation. The first time it may be uncomfortable for you, but every time you can come back, it gets easier and easier. And it's just like fitness, right? That first time it's a tough workout, but then it
Right.
gets easier and easier and easier, and it becomes a part of your identity. So start with that one. small thing, whether it's a coffee date or, having a friend over for coffee, or, just start small is what
Yeah.
I don't want to ramble too much, but start small.
I like it. You
Yeah.
know, I do want to correct something. You said it last week and then you said it again. When you work out, it don't get
No,
easier.
it doesn't.
You get stronger. You get
Yes.
stronger,
Yes.
but it don't get
Hmm.
easier.
Hmm. That's true.
You know, that's something even with anything that you apply that to, whatever you do in repetition, you're gonna get better at it. But that same thing is gonna be hard every time for somebody that's never done it before.
Yes. Yeah, and I like that reminder, Dwayne, because when I get on my spin bike, my mind says this is easier, right?
Mhm.
It ain't easier. Like
Mm-mm.
you said, I am just physically and mentally stronger. So your relationships, with friends or family members, they won't essentially get easier, but you will gain strength mentally. You will gain strength emotionally. Your communication skills will improve. And then over time, what happens is now you're just chopping it up with 3 or 4 friends. Now you're part of a church. Now you're part of a fitness group. Now you're part of some sort of community,
Mhm.
and it builds up that family aspect. And like you said, and it probably never gets easier, but it becomes ingrained in you, and you get stronger.
Absolutely, absolutely. So your homework, that those that are listening, send this video to somebody in your community, somebody, because there's one side of people that are isolated. If that's not you, there may be somebody in your life that is going through that, and you can be proactive in reaching out. And I bring that up because I always shout out, Mr. Eddie for reaching out to me
Hmm.
whenever I first joined and I had COVID and I didn't, post. He reached out to me and was like, "Hey, checking on you, bud," and
Hmm.
that changed my life, like literally. So take this video, this podcast, send it to somebody, say, "Hey, I was thinking about you." And when y'all hearing this part that somebody sent this to you, that person really cares about you. That's why they
Hmm.
sent you this podcast.
Hmm.
But I think that, if you're not feeling isolated, if you're in a good place, that is the opportunity to look around, see
Yes.
who can I pull up, who can I bring in, who's that person that when we all go to lunch, they stay back. Let me invite them next time.
Hmm.
Be that light, be that person, man. So that's your homework assignment, because everybody listens to the podcast, man. You guys are rock stars anyway. That's why y'all listen. So make sure you share this episode with them and send it to them direct. Send them a text like, "Hey, I think you could benefit
Hmm.
from this episode," and they'll check it out, especially if it comes from me and it's out the blue. They'll definitely take time, and we're about to end it, so it won't even be long. It's a quick episode, they can knock it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just want to put that out there for those. That's your homework for next week.
Hmm. And I want to shout out somebody as well, Polly, our guy Polly.
Yeah, man.
It's once every 2 or 3 months he'll shoot me a message on Instagram. Hey, just
Thank
thinking about you, and proud of you, all those things. And sometimes I'm feeling some sort of way, negatively or emotionally or mentally, and I see that. And what does it do, right? What does it do when you receive that same message, Dwayne? What happens?
Yeah, it brings you up, man. It,
Man,
it kind of makes you
yes.
lift your head up a little bit.
Hmm.
Somebody's thinking about you, somebody's cheering for you.
Hmm.
It gives you that reminder.
Hmm.
And then
Energy.
for also it prompts you to do the same for others.
Yes, it's a two-way street, and it's a chain reaction. So when Polly messages me, I make it a point to message somebody that's close to me, whether it's my
Mhm.
mom or my sister. They're always the two that are most open-minded to a motivational message from Uncle Brad. Um, but but it's a two-way street, and like you were saying, maybe you needed this. One of the listeners, maybe you needed this, or maybe somebody that
Yeah.
needs this. So two-way street. You got to be open to the feedback. You got to be open to giving feedback or helping out. And I don't know if we want to end yet, but
Yeah.
so I so I talked to a college hockey team today as we're
Nice.
recording, but this past week, and about energy. And we've talked about energy so much, and good energy is contagious. Bad energy is contagious. And when you're around nobody, you create the energy. And
Mhm.
it's very difficult to muster up good, positive energy all by yourself. So I
Mhm.
encourage you, get around positive folks, right? And once you're around positive folks, you start to see your life flourish a little bit, prosper a little bit. And I ended my hockey speech today with a hey, fill in the blank kind of thing. I said, one rotten apple will fill in the blank. You fill in the blank. One rotten apple will what? Fill in the
For the
blank.
rest of them.
spoil the rest of them. Wrong. One rotten apple is going to spoil one apple. And that rotten apple may spoil another one until somebody decides to break that chain, right? And if I remove an apple that's touching the rotten apple, the rest of the apples will flourish. They'll prosper. So if you have that toxic apple or that bad energy in your life, you have to confront that bad energy. You have to confront that toxicity, remove yourself from it if you want to prosper. You want to be that red, shiny apple, don't be next to the rotten apples. Don't be next to that toxic energy. And if you're not around any energy, make sure you get around that good energy.
Till next time, folks.